All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. This is the Vito x DINO show. This is episode number 45. We figured 45 we would do something special. My name is Vito Delsante. His name is Dean Haspiel.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dean Haspiel.
My favorite part of the show. And joining us tonight for the first time, we've been trying to get him on. He's just so busy, and he's like, his job takes him like all over the place. And it was just like out of the blue. I was like, "Hey, are you busy Thursday?" And he's like, "Yeah, let's do it up." Publisher, writer, designer, bon vivant, reader of comics. I don't know.
Olympian. He's an athlete.
He is an athlete. He is a like one of the Spartan athletes and Tough Mudders and American Gladiator. Like he actually was on American Gladiator. He's one of my best friends. Ladies and gentlemen, Charlie McElvy.
Hey everybody, I'm Charlie McElvy, as the DINO says, right? So hey, woohoo! Thanks guys. No, it's super awesome.
One of the things I always like whenever I introduce Charlie to somebody is I always like saying, "Hey, Charlie and I hated Charlie when I first met him." Like, no, I don't know that hate's too strong of a word. That's for sure. It was more like a professional jealousy, because he also works with Sean Isaacs, and it was just like, hey, we gotta figure it out. And so I walked up to him at a Baltimore Comic-Con, and the rest is history since then. Charlie, for those uninitiated, let's talk about Xion Studios and then work into Blind Squirrel Comics. Xion's been your imprint for, as long as I've known you. It's got to be at least 17, 18 years at this point.
Yep. Actually, so it's funny that it predates comics even. We a friend of mine, Jason, and I started Xion Studios as a graphic design entity, and so we were like kind of freelancing when freelance was like not as big as it is now, but it just seemed to be a thing. Anyway, we were Adobe Illustrator guys, just willing to do logos and designs and stuff like that, and so it started there, but it didn't take long. 98, 97 actually is when I started doing like writing my first comic. So but yeah, it's been around forever, it feels like.
I have a question. So Vito and I started doing comics, wanting to write and draw for Marvel and DC. When you started doing comics, did you start out like wanting to write for franchises, or you just went independent right out the gate?
Yeah, I think I went independent out the gate. I mean, I never didn't want to work for Marvel or DC, if that makes any sense, like kind of using that double negative. But I didn't want to write their characters necessarily. I wanted them to subsume mine and just like propel them up, kind of thing.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, so I was actually a little bit more into like Dark Horse and IDW, and then the early days of Top Cow and stuff like that. I actually chatted with Matt Hawkins and his then wife many times online, AOL chat, just kind of yakking it up. Jessica Booth and I used to chat it up quite a bit, talking about stuff. And then, I'm going to kick myself for forgetting her name, but the editor from Wildstorm that passed away a couple of years ago. Sarah, thank you. She was on Real World, right? So she and I yacked it up quite a bit online too. And so I was always just doing the independent thing, like trying to get my stuff out there. So yeah, it's just been my nature the whole time.
But meanwhile, like one of the comics you're best known for creating is Spider-Squirrel.
Yeah.
Which is a direct homage, obviously, to Spider-Man. Where you are the Peter Parker avatar of sorts. And it's funny. Like, what was the first bunch of characters you created that you have not returned to, or do you keep perpetuating these characters?
That's a great question, because I don't think anybody's asked me on any podcast yet. Asa and my Asgardians, as it were. When the first book I was just talking about that I wrote in 97 was this character Asa. He's this immortal guy, bald black man running around with these cool runic things on his tunic, and he's got all these elemental powers. This obviously precedes Avatar: The Last Airbender by a long time, like 2 decades. plus. And anyway, he was visiting all these like I was gonna have him visit all these mythological places. So he was gonna go to Asgard and learn from, you know, how to fight from Thor and learn things from Heimdall and the other gods. And then he'd go to Egypt and learn from Bast or Set, or you know what I mean. And so I was just gonna have him kind of do the kind of the mythical trials of Shazam, if you will. But I'm just referencing that because it's one of my favorite Shazam series. Where it's almost like an RPG where the hero has to go through all these, Herculean kind of tasks and gets better at doing these things. And so he has yet to be published other than in pinups and other things right now.
Wait, did you ever generate any pages? Or meaning not only script pages, but actual drawn pages? 5.
Yeah, 5. I have one fully inked Steve Dutro, hand lettered it. And then I have a second page that is partially inked. And then I have pages 3, 4, and 5 are either pencils or various stages of pencils and roughs. And that's it. My entire art team got swallowed up by CrossGen Comics in 1998.
Wow.
Literally, my
whole other story, CrossGen.
Yeah.
That's a book, I think, the CrossGen story, right?
It is.
Is that the one where the publisher was like a rich guy who
Yep.
insisted that everyone who worked on the comics that CrossGen published move to a certain area and house them?
Yeah, Tampa, Orlando area. Yeah.
His name was Mark Alessi. And
That's
I had, for the longest time, I'd probably somewhere in my basement, but I had the nicest rejection letter from his sister Gina for a couple of submissions that I had given.
How many years did CrossGen publish or that last?
Not many. 3 or 4. Yeah. Maybe 5.
Yeah. I mean, 5 is pushing it, but yeah.
Yeah. Before they just fell apart. And of course, Marvel owns the rights to all that stuff now. They're doing omnibuses. I just picked up the Sigil and Mystic omnibus, and there's another one I'm waiting for. Oh, Sojourn. I'm waiting for Sojourn to come as a.
Wait, and seriously, why would Marvel be interested in indie characters? Like,
no idea.
I mean, I know DC bought the Charlton characters, which yielded Watchmen, weirdly enough, but
and gave us a little bit of their prices, right? Yeah.
Right, and they do play with the characters they bought from Charlton. But Marvel, I'm trying to think of.
Marvel owns Ultraverse, and they don't use them.
Is that the Malibu?
Yeah.
Yeah. And Prime and all those guys.
Yeah. They're great characters. Like Norm Brayfogle, I think, co-created Prime.
I love that series.
I really liked Barry Windsor Smith had done a couple of them as well. Not a couple. He did. What was the name of that character? He was like this weird looking character with like runes on him. Funny, it's talking about runes.
Yeah, I can't remember now.
But I can see the characters like almost purplish, like they're like Malibu's Ultraverse yielded a lot of good stuff.
If I'm correct, they bought Malibu for their coloring system or something, right? Or they bought a company, and I think it's Malibu.
Thanks, Gary.
His name was Rune. You got to be kidding me. His name was just right there.
Rune.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, I think because they were doing early, like Malibu, if I remember correctly. I can't remember if Steve Olaf was a part of that or not, but they were doing early digital coloring, and that was a big thing, right? And so I think that's right. I think they bought for the kind of the process that they had going.
Yeah, when they bought the company, they were buying it not for the IP, as it were, but for the. But that's weird because. Then what happens to the IP? It just lays there and you do nothing with it. That's just so weird to me.
They're going to do like DC's been doing with Milestone. They'll keep making it like they give a crap about it. And then they'll go out there and they'll do an event every once in a while just to keep their copyright and all the rights and stuff like that. And then they'll fall back into nothing again. Right. So infuriating. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, so what happened to Asa? You lose your artist and that's it? You lose you're not interested in perpetuating the character at all?
Yeah, so I was working with Steve Ellis. He did a pinup for me. Mike Attia colored it on the side, even though he was technically working for CrossGen and wasn't supposed to. He wasn't actually working at the time on a project. So Mike colored it, and that was the start of what I thought was going to be kind of perpetuating it. And it just things didn't work out. So like my family life, my budget, just. Everything kind of was the wrong time is what it really boiled down to more than anything else.
And this is the late 90s?
Yeah. So I sat on it for I sat on it for a while, and then I thought I was going to revisit it when I started creating Watch Guard, and but that ended up becoming the whole next thing, and I thought that was the right thing to do, like go with the Watch Guard, even though I arguably probably my worst writing even after Asa and stuff like that, but it worked.
Right. Stephen commented about how DC loves to tease us with Wildstorm and then puts it away. Yeah. I mean, I think at the end of the day, listen, don't forget, I co-produced 3 graphic novels for Vertigo, right? That had nothing to do with DC's Trinity. And I think, when Dan DiDio was running the joint, he ultimately put the kibosh on a lot of like the weird Vertigo stuff that was being produced outside of like Sandman and Fables and that kind of stuff,
because those are perennial sellers. You have to put them out there, like otherwise.
Oh, you have to, like, of course.
You know
I think at the end of the day, he just didn't care about those comics, and that's when I thought DC was getting really interesting, was because they're hiring folks like me. I'll be biased, obviously, but knowing me, I would have loved to have been doing a Batman comic or something, right? But I'm doing Jonathan Ames at the Alcoholic, instead, kind of a thing. And those books, I assume they did well enough, right? And I remember feeling like, wow, we're doing Drawn and Corley and Fantagraphics at DC Comics, which is really cool and recommends DC Comics, right? But then it was just like little by small. They were like, let's just cut this out. And that really bummed me out. And then they hyper focused on their Trinity characters and then expanding and doing all with what they do. I get it, but I don't know why it was at the sacrifice.
Well, the other thing too is, think about the market at that time. It was just starting, like, there were now at that point, they were just starting to separate book market from direct market.
Yeah.
So your projects, Cuban Revolution, The Alcoholic and the Quitter, was among a bunch of books that were almost geared towards the book market. Like towards like the Barnes and Nobles and Borders. I think Borders might have still been around at that point. But like your books, like, and there's like a couple. There's like do you remember the noir line that they did? That were like little hardcover line things. I forget the name of the line, but like they weren't Vertigo, and they weren't like Cecil Castellucci did one. A couple other people, Jonathan, not Jonathan Lethem, but some.
There were definitely some authors. They were hiring authors,
right? So,
and I remember, they were trying the book market, and then there was the Minx line that would be for young women, that Shelley Bond. There was Karen Berger, Jonathan Vankin. I mean, there were so many great forward-thinking editors, right?
Yeah.
And then they just put the kibosh on it, and it always was like you don't have enough. And then you hear stories about how the comics weren't selling enough, and it's because Warner Brothers, whoever owned them at the time, they were just underwriting DC Comics. That's just, the comics, the print comics, because they weren't doing so great in the stores. And I don't mean Marvel's doing better. I just mean in general, comic books have historically been about to become go the way of the dinosaur for many, many years. But going back to those 3 books you mentioned I did at Vertigo, The Quitter, The Alcoholic, Cuba, My Revolution, I remember hearing something, a year or so after those books came out, I would get 5 copies of a Brazilian edition of one, these graphic novels, or from another country, and maybe some royalty check that was piddly. And I heard one of the strategies they used to try to sell the ones they wanted to get across internationally, but also selling it as IP for possible movies, is they throw in 5 or 6 comics like mine as a just a little a gift, don't even pay for me. They throw them to sweeten the pot, as it were, which was very strange, wait a second, I thought you had my back, but they were just using it as a way to here, sweeten the pot, and I don't necessarily have the receipts on that, but I had people telling me about that at the company.
And I show you something very funny that I own that Dean and I both worked on. It's Learn Spanish with Batman.
What? I don't have that.
Huh?
I
You
don't
don't
have
have this?
that.
This is crazy, man. Like our couch,
Hola, soy Bruce.
like it has like it's all in English and Spanish, and it's the craziest thing. Like I love it.
And look at that book design. Like look at that. If you look at that extra
Trim on the
width
side.
inside, like,
Look at that
and
border.
they're adding all that extra stuff like wallpaper. That's so weird, man. You know, I mean, listen, I'll do a Comic-Con and somebody will come up to me, and usually they'll bring up comics I did 30, 20 years ago, whatever. And I'm just like, oh God, I can't even look at that. I don't even want to sign it. But then they'll come up with something like that. I'll be like,
Yeah.
where? I never even saw this or knew about it, you
I
know?
don't even know how I got that. I also have
You want to learn Spanish. So you looked
David
up
Macho.
Amazing.
I actually have the graphic novel in Spanish from Spain. Like David
Wow.
Macho brought this to me from Planeta d'Agostini, and there it is in all in Spanish, the whole thing.
It's called the sofa instead of the couch.
Yeah.
El Sofa.
Uh,
That's funny, man. Wow.
so Watch Guard is basically how I kind of got to know you, Charlie.
Yep.
And like, although you had started developing Asa prior to that, I remember one of the first pieces of art that I saw Xion do for you was Asa and a couple of other your characters. Like they were cosmic characters, I believe. And then, oh, look at this.
Bradford
Red
Tree.
Tree.
It's our buddy from Baltimore. We love you, Brad. But yeah, WatchGuard was my introduction to Charlie. And how did if I'm remembering correctly, it was an RPG, right?
Yeah.
It was a role-playing game.
Yeah, yes. So I published the role playing game first. What happened was I created the comic and I got Andy Smith. Andy and I have been friends since 96, 7, something like that. 6, 7.
No.
Sorry, that my kids have been doing that all the time now. It's just stuck. But so there you go.
Isn't that a Jimi Hendrix song?
We just lost like 50% of our
It's 6 for 7. Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah.
It was 6 was 9. I don't know. Anyway, whatever.
But yeah, so I created this, and I'm paying Andy. You know, I mean, he gave me a decent rate, but still, it's expensive making a book. And so at Andy, I had, oh gosh, I had. So Andy was doing that. Steve Dutro was do letters again for me, and then I had come across Elmer Santos, who's now done like Wildcats and all kinds of other stuff. Elmer I'd found on DeviantArt or something. And he was going to color it for me, and he wasn't cheap, but he was cheaper than he is now. And so I'm putting stuff together and I'm going, holy shit, I don't have an audience. Like, who's going to buy this? That was my first thought. Like, I'm not Chaykin, I'm not Eastman or Laird, I'm not Liefeld, I'm not McFarlane. I'm none of these guys, right, in indie comics that preceded me, right? And so I sat there and thought about it. I was like, who's going to give a crap about a book like of these characters? And so I answered my own question. I said, well, I'll just build an audience. I mean, why not just do it that way? And I had done something I don't think anybody else had done up to that point on their own. And I don't know that many have done it since then, but I built my audience. So what I started doing is I started seeding my characters as I'm creating them while pages are still coming in. I'm creating these like Marvel Universe type bios, beautiful professional art, which in the RPG world was outstanding. Like, this is Oscar worthy kind of art, you know, in terms of the production quality and everything. Wrote it like a Marvel Universe, DC, who's who kind of a thing. And then I started creating gaming stats, and then I met a few folks who did gaming stats like professionally, and a couple of them did things for free for me because they just wanted to be a part of this whole thing. It was really cool. And so we smashed it all together. And then I started selling the characters digitally, individually. So, 99 cents a pop. And I was making about 2 pages worth of sales per month doing that. And I was building an audience, and people wanted more and more and more. And so I kept dropping more and more and more, eventually culminating into what became the WatchGuard source book. Added a bunch of new material, some back matter like pinups and things like that, and a whole bibliography for all the creators who were involved. They all got like links to their DeviantArt or wherever they wanted the links to go to. It was kind of fun, good community thing. That ended up winning awards. Like, I got nominated for an ENnie award, which in role-playing games, that'd be like a Harvey or an Eisner, So I got nominated for an ENnie, 2 ENnies, and it won an Ogre award, which is probably more like a not quite Ringo level, but something smaller than that, you know. But still, it won awards and got nominated for more. And I wasn't expecting that. I was just trying to build an audience. So then I launched the Kickstarter, and yeah, it built the audience. So that's kind of how.
Well, let me ask you that. That's an interesting thing, because like you should have just stuck with games in a way, right?
Probably.
But then you're building an audience through a gaming system to get them to buy the comic book. My question to you, and like this isn't a question, I know the answer, but for instance, when I did a webtoon, right, the Red Hook at Webtoon, and you have thousands and thousands of readers, right? And I was on the lower end of the amount of readers that read webtoons, right? But in terms of translating to sales, print sales, like I would say maybe 100, 150 people out of 5,000 that read it for free online might want to then buy the physical version or something physical, right? And I think like my question to you is, how many of those gamers were like, oh, let me go buy the comic now? Like, what was the translation, you know, in terms of head count?
Yeah, it was actually, it was probably more significant than I thought. A couple hundred of however many for sure. And many still actually back books today from me.
So you have like fans for life, like loyal.
Yeah, that's the one thing I think that kind of differentiates the gaming community a little bit from the comics community, as I think, you know, there tends to be, well, maybe not so. They're very similar in this, I guess, is the loyalty kind of follows irrespective of medium. But I do think gamers are probably a little different than that, because, you know, you have the one aspect where you go and you're actually playing these characters, or they're NPCs in your world or whatever. And I hear that all the time. Even to this day, people still message me that, oh, hey, I saw this in Drive-Thru RPG and I bought it, and holy crap, you have more coming. And I'm like, no, buy the books. So, you know, I mean, that's like 15, 20 years later almost. So the gamers they get the one life, and then they have the other one. They can just kind of sit there, and rather than be a part of it, they can just view it. Right. So I think it's a little different. Comics people don't tend to gravitate to gaming if they're not already gamers. I think that's the difference, right? Where I think gamers tend to be natural readers already. So that's kind of the audience I went after.
That's good to know. That's good to know. You know, I'm just thinking out loud. It's some of the things that me and Vito do on the show is to kind of create, you know, on the spot. And maybe there's something to, in 2026, since we're all adjacent to each other, you know, with Vito Stray, my Red Hook, and other characters, and your comics at Xion. And we can talk about Chestface later and all that. Yeah. But maybe having some kind of like gaming versions of what you have done, like a Red Hook, or I guess you have Stray. Do you have a Stray gaming version?
Yeah, actually, I think I don't know that we had done it like traditionally, like in a what do you call it? Like in an RPG gaming platform.
An RPG would be awesome.
But I have all the stats that DT.
So that's my question. So like, what is it we're talking about? Like when you do, you have the character posing, their stats, a little bit of history and what they can do, and that's it. And then what?
Basically.
Yeah, I mean, that's essentially it. Yeah. So
and that's what Charlie has in his book. He's got like, like their history, their
powers and abilities.
Yeah, and then like you have like a guide, like a.
But then, how do you play a game? What, like, give me a quick idea of what is the game.
So it's still out there. It's so Green Ronin Publishing does Mutants and Masterminds. And when I started this, that was the most, like, there was Heroes and there was a couple others, but that was the most advanced, in my opinion, the most advanced feeling and most mature feeling RPG out there for superheroes, specifically for superheroes. And so I bought like a $35 hardcover just to thumb through it because they wouldn't let me look at it in the gaming store. and luckily it turned out to be a worthwhile investment because
this isn't a library.
I was like shrink wrapped, and can I just thumb through this, because you know the cover art and interior art are two different things, right? And I've bought enough RPGs to know. But you know, you'll have a Tim Bradstreet do a cover or something like that, or Grant Hildebrandt, and then you open it up and it's like Johnny Chuckmeyer did some art. Or
well, it's like Dungeons and Dragons, remember?
Yes.
Like
that's what I was expecting.
This awesome painted cover, and you open it up, and it's like my mom drew that.
Yeah. So thankfully, it wasn't no art. So Mutants and Masterminds actually had good quality art, and
Ramon Perez came from there. Xion, like I had mentioned.
Xion, yep.
Talent Caldwell, who had done work at
I've worked with Talon also. Yep.
Yeah, Talon did work
Is that,
at.
is that his real name? His real first name, Talon?
As far as I know.
As far as I know.
I'm gonna name my. If I have a son or a daughter, I'm gonna name him Famous, Rich and Famous Haspiel.
Famous Haspiel. Which one are you?
Rich
I'm the
and
famous
Famous
Haspiel. Yeah.
I have 2 kids, Rich and Famous. Anyway.
So you did get rich and famous.
You see?
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, that's really so. Anyway, what it turned out is
So they get this book. They get a
I
book
bought the
that
book
kind
and I
of.
reached out to the publisher. Yeah, and he says, "Oh," and it turns out on their website they had like a free licensing program. You had some stipulations, like requirements, but as long as you met the requirements, they just pretty much auto approved you. And so I did that. I was like, well, shoot, I'll just do this. And it was called the M&M Superlink program. And you had to have their logo, and they supplied the logo for you. And you had to have the open gaming license in the back of every material that you release, whether it's digital or physical. But that was really the bulk of it. And then you had to match like their requirements. What was really cool is they actually would co-distribute. Like they go, oh, well, we'll promote it for you. And so that was another thing that was really cool. I actually went on a podcast with the Steve Kenson and Chris Pramis one time, which they're the 2 top guys at Green Ronin at the time for that section. So Chris was the publisher and one of the creators, and Steve was a big time writer, still is a big time writer. And they had me on a podcast, back in the day doing this. So it's pretty cool. But it was all free. It doesn't cost you anything. Just time.
I was going to say two quick.
Is Creative Commons or something like that as well. Like the 5e is like not public domain, but it's
the open gaming license is what it is.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. So 2 quick questions. One would be copyright. What's the copyright situation on that? And then the second thing is, in a nutshell, just to boil it down, I want to play Do You Stray and Spider-Squirrel, right?
Yeah.
Just explain to me in a quick nutshell, like how am I playing with them in the
so
game?
you would you'd have a game master who would define your scenario, whatever it is. So you're going to rescue.
Oh, it's like Dungeons and Dragons.
It's just like Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh, okay. Then I already get it. You don't have to explain it further. It's like a Dungeons and Dragons where someone creates scenarios and then you roll dice to do certain things, and so it's okay. Got it.
Yeah,
and
it's built off the same mechanics, so it's the same die. It's the same basic rule structure. So if you're familiar with Dungeons and Dragons like 5e, then if you picked up Mutants and Masterminds 3e, I think is their version, they're equivalent in terms of. I mean, they're pretty damn close. So you can pick one up from the other. D&D with capes. Thanks, Marcus.
Yep, all right, there you go. Thanks. And so D&D I assume has evolved since I played it when in the 80s.
You mean back
when it's been 40 years, Dean? So I think so.
I think it's a little bit, but how much has it advanced? Like what is the new bells and whistles on a modern day version?
I don't know about D&D because I honestly haven't played a role playing game in forever. I only played Mutants and Masterminds like twice, and both times it was on a podcast. So
okay.
So I really couldn't tell you. I can tell you that from what I understood of D&D before I created the Mutants and Masterminds stuff, not much had changed. I mean, there's some minor dynamic shifts, and they come up with ways to avoid creating the Mary Sue characters and stuff like that. So you actually had flaws. There's a point system, so it's almost like you can pull from the point system, and you can make this person like insanely strong but dumb as an ox, or slow as a turtle, or whatever. But there were always like these limiters, these
oh, that's great, because you don't want all powerful characters, because those are boring, right?
But
like you have to have
them as NPCs and stuff like that still too. So they did give you like, if you want to create eternity, you can do that too. Yeah.
Sure. And I don't know, I'm just starting to think like out loud. It sounds like a big duh moment, but like New Brooklyn, we can do something we can do some kind of special thing where we put out these characters, but to help galvanize people to want to read and buy the comics, like.
I mean, that's a good. I included. Did you flip to the back of the Titan Size special?
Do you have it?
Not right here with me. Yeah, Vito might have it. Hey, Steve. What's really what I did was just for extra back matter and just to introduce some characters. That one, yeah. Don't peel the sticker off his butt there, because nobody wants to see that.
Oh,
Yeah, But you can see right here, Dean, there.
Right.
So that's Carlos Gomez's art. Carlos is doing stuff for Marvel now, and Yep, that's Sean Isaacs right there.
And so it's about two pages worth of data information, enough to give you the character aspects you need to then do a role-playing game. God, man, we got to do something like this.
This these are all the characters that appear in the actual
anthology. Yeah, so all the characters that I selected for this, they all appeared in one of the anthological stories, or they were trash can and spider-squirrel.
This is the art that made me hate Charlie. I was like, why is Sean drawing that? He should be drawing my stuff. But this is the actual part I saw.
What's funny is Sean got hired by Green Ronin after Green Ronin saw my book, and they were like, "Oh, we want that guy." And so,
right. All right, well, that's fascinating, man. Like, I kind of just brush it off as number one, didn't understand it. Dean's kid's rich and famous, and that's if I have a third kid. Thanks, Gary. Love you. Haspiel. That's me. Anyway.
So let's move from WatchGuard, so we know that how you built your audience. Now let's move to the link that we're looking at right now for Claymore, which has one more day on Kickstarter. It's already funded, but it's only 101% funded. So hopefully, if anybody out there hasn't backed the book yet, we want to hopefully get some more backers tonight to help Charlie and Scott out. So why don't you explain Claymore to everybody, because it kind of fits in with this RPG kind of conversation.
And just to see what Marcus wrote, Battle of the True Independence RPG with accompanying 5-issue comic. I mean, that's interesting. The only thing about True Independence is like that's such a broad title. We would have to be specific, I think.
It just means us three.
Let's remember something. I will bring this up again since I brought it up many episodes ago. I wanted to make a championship belt. Do you remember this, Dean?
Yeah,
and what was the criteria for the championship belt?
I don't remember.
The criteria was if you can beat my comic in a fight, you get the belt.
Beat my comic in a fight.
Basically.
Awesome.
Brad, we'll talk about that here in a second. But here's the idea. If you guys are down for it, we need to get like a couple of different people. We do the RPG. We do like all the stats and everything. We actually play as our characters, our own characters.
Yep, absolutely.
We record it. We put it on the internet, and whoever wins, that's who gets the belt.
That would be fun.
Not only gets the belt, but we all win because at that point, people might want to go buy our comic books. Like we are our own avatars. You're Stray. You're Spider-Squirrel. I'm Red Hook. I mean, what more do you want? Or we can then do other versions where I'm Chestface. And you're a Trash Panda, and then you're one of your other characters, Vito. Like
one of the other 100. Yeah, like
I've only got a few hundred. So,
and there was a comment that Brad Arney, is that his name?
Yeah, here.
Brad's just awesome. Thanks. Hey, Brad.
So, and it's funny because I've talked about trying to do that same thing with New Brooklyn characters, as you know, Vito. But like, I do like that idea, and we have talked about that intersection. There's an intersection. Love. All three of us at the same time.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
That's the kidlet right there.
There you go. But we have talked about that intersection, almost like, hey, Bob, and we all win. Where the characters cross over and we give each other permission to use our characters. Yeah. Because we understand we're doing them respectfully, but also to aggressively be able to have a campaign, let's say, where we ask somebody to be this dungeon master, as it were, and put our characters in a scenario. This could be so much fun, man.
Oh my goodness!
Oh, what would be really fun if we took this to the nth degree, right? Is what if we came up with a general premise, right? So this is our scenario that we have to fight through, and then we each write a chapter or something and carry it through. But nobody knows the end because we have to play the game first, and then we draw or write.
That's great. We need to get John and Derek in on this as well.
Feather Bunny. Yeah, man.
It's like if we're gonna
be oh gosh. Then we
can literally we know enough people who regularly show up with because we love genre and come up with these different types of crossover genre characters, anti-heroes and everything. What's that?
This is my Spider-Squirrel box set.
It's a pizza box.
Oh, nice.
Pizza box.
That's nice. Well, before we get to Claymore, because that's where we're going to stick the landing on Xion right now. So Xion, Press, right? Not publication.
Science
It was
Studio.
Zion Press at one point. Yeah.
Science Studio, which also has an imprint, right? Right now,
Yes. Blind Squirrel.
Blind Squirrel, you said?
Yeah, Blind Squirrel Comics.
Blind Squirrel. And there's a distinction of what Blind Squirrel is, right? From Zion, and what is that?
Yeah. So, ironically, I kind of did did a reverse Vertigo, where I started with the Zion Studios brand, and that's my publishing venture, and it has been for a while. Hey, Tony, and
Tony.
and when I started doing Night Care with Scott Fogg, who we'll talk about in a little bit, and it was just in the chat there. And when I started, and then really when I kicked off with American Yakuza, and I had this mature audiences book, the one thing I wanted to do is be clear about differentiation of my titles. And so it came up with the Blind Squirrel Comics name, because it was just, Blind Squirrel finds a nut every once in a while, right? And I think every once in a while I come up with a book that's a hit, and I don't attribute it to any genius. I just think I'm a dumb, lucky guy. But I had DC Stolpner, who was the series artist for Spider-Squirrel and Trash Panda, come up with the logos. We worked on that together. And then, like I said, I took the bulk of my hero books, what you would consider traditional superhero comic books, or traditional comic books even, and put them in this Blind Squirrel cast. And then I'm moving all the mature stuff or non-traditional comics into the Zion Studio stuff. So if I end up doing something, if I end up doing a sci-fi comic book, even if it's not a mature audiences one, it'll probably fall under Zion Studios, unless it happens to fall into the greater universe of Spider-Squirrel, Trash Panda, and the rest of the crew. So you can almost think of Blind Squirrel as a common universe, even if it isn't really. But that's probably the easiest way to think about that. And then everything else would be Zion Studios.
So in a way, Blind Squirrel is more like your DC, and Zion is Vertigo?
Yes, that's why I said it's like a reverse Vertigo. Yep.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. So before we get to Claymore, I was first introduced to your work through Spider-Squirrel. In fact, I believe, what's up, Tony? I believe I was walking around Baltimore Comic-Con and Artist Alley.
There's a common thing going here with Baltimore and putting us together.
Baltimore's our family show, man. It's our family show. It's where I met David Trussman. David Trussman, who again, I was walking around Artist Alley and discovered his work and collaborated with David Trussman, who's awesome. So with that, it was always like mining the gold, like finding the diamonds in the rough, as it were, right?
Yeah.
And I remember walking around Whitney Matheson, and I may have met you before, maybe online or something, Charlie. I can't remember. But going to your booth in Artist Alley, and you had a Spider-Squirrel comic book with the cover God Slap. Oh, my man, deep cut. Marcus, my man, that's the shit right there.
Yeah, he is.
But what do you call it? So we see one of your comic book covers, and it's Spider-Squirrel eating pizza in Fredericksburg, Virginia.
Yeah,
from a Fredericksburg, who I also believe, I think might be was it Riley Brown's brother ran the pizza shop or something?
So yeah, Riley's brother Chris owned, like, it's funny. Riley tells the story. He obviously, go to Riley for the true story. I'll give you the fake one. I'll just make shit up. No, but Riley's brother went to, I think, Virginia Tech and had never made a pizza in his life, and all of a sudden he's I'm gonna start a pizza shop, and so
just like comics.
Yeah, kind of modeled after a childhood pizza shop they went to, Benny's in Jersey. So I think he and Riley used to eat there, is the story. But anyway, yeah. So Chris founded Benny's Pizza, and just so happens to be a Benny's franchise in my hometown, and they're popped up all over. Like they're in Kalamazoo, Michigan. We went on a trip to the Outer Banks. There's one in the Outer Banks, so they're all over now. You find a college town or a resort town, and you're probably going to find a Benny's Pizza, at least on the East Coast. And like I said, I think the furthest west right now is Kalamazoo, which is still east. But yeah, so it was there, and Riley
So Whitney looks at this cover and is like, what is going on? Because she comes from Fredericksburg, Virginia. And you were so specific in doing a cover like that it was just like, what is going on? So obviously, I mean, and by the way, she says, hello, fellas.
Hi, Whitney.
She knew I was going to talk to you. So, but But I remember thinking, wow, what a brilliant thing to do is just to also be super specific, as broad as we're trying to be with our comics to a certain extent, because more of an audience, like you want to. I often talk about trying to write evergreen comics that are also specific, so something that feels like right now when you read it, but then 10 years from now still has its value, or a
One of
value.
the things that I've kind of, I don't want to say stolen, but I've definitely learned it from Charlie is Charlie's very local, but he's universal. And what I mean is that he does all of his local shows in Virginia and Maryland, obviously Baltimore, and maybe even Delaware. I'm not entirely sure, but Charlie's, like built up kind of his audience within that. And so like I was saying a couple of episodes ago, like I want to do 5 shows next year, and I want to make sure that they're shows that like Baltimore heroes, like ones that I can drive to, and possibly one on the West Coast. But most importantly, I want to really focus on Pennsylvania, because if I can get Pennsylvania and like Western Pennsylvania into maybe Cincinnati or Cleveland, as you guys know, I've been kind of discovering Johnstown, PA. There's a Ditko Con there that I'd like to do. So that kind of, like I kind of want to build up my reputation as being like the Western Pennsylvania guy in a sense. And I think, Charlie has really kind of led the way in my eyes for that, like in terms of like how he promotes and stuff.
To be local, to be a local, like Jim Rugg, or
right.
Episcor in peace, like being a local guy. Like I've been known as a Brooklyn guy, although I was born and raised in Manhattan. I moved to Brooklyn 28 plus years ago, and I've definitely tooted that Brooklyn horn a lot, So I'm considered the Brooklyn, mayor of comics, which is bullshit, but I'll take it, but I know what you mean.
Wear the
it's like
crown,
there's something
baby.
about,
yeah.
It's about representing a certain,
So I think of it. So I use the term glocal, like, so have a glocal mentality, and so you promote.
You should see a doctor about that.
I know. My glocal's acting up again. Oh my god!
Well, they got pills for that now.
Wait till you see the rash I got in this thing. But being
Puerto Rican, it's fine.
Global and being local simultaneously. You promote.
Sorry.
No, you're good. Oh, we don't have to be serious. Good God. But yeah, being promoting locally, being involved locally. I've had local food joints. I try to, my local store does signings, and I do store exclusives for them, which you can get on my website too. But I mean, I don't promote those as much. I let them sell theirs because it's what it's for, right? But at the same time, writing so that it's at least appealing to someone. For example, the cover you referenced, like a lot of people still buy that cover. They couldn't give 2 craps about Benny's. They don't know Benny's is even in the background. All they care about is that there's 2 characters that are hilariously fighting over pizza, pineapple or no pineapple, right? And so
and everybody understands a pizza shop. Everybody understands a pizza shop. So whether it's Benny's or there, and just a quick note I want to say, because we mentioned Riley Brown, who was a former studio mate of mine, great guy. They just announced today that I think Dark Horse is publishing Masters of the Universe.
Yes, I
Tom
saw that.
Steely's writing with Riley Brown drawing, and we know for years Riley Brown's been dying to draw Masters of the Universe. So kudos and cheers to Riley.
He has the power. Yeah, I'm actually. I saw that announcement. I was super stoked for Riley. I was like, dude. No.
So how do we get to Spider-Squirrel, and then eventually other titles you've done, and then landing on Claymore?
Yeah, the fast version of that story, because I've repeated it a few times, so some of these folks have heard it already. But Spider-Squirrel was actually an incidental character. I had not done anything since WatchGuard. I promoted WatchGuard, sold it, whatever, but I wasn't sure what my next bag was. Like what, because I didn't really feel like that was my bag. I just felt like it was a thing I did, and I'll say this, like, and I give this advice a lot of times when I'm doing panels. You probably heard me say this, Dean and Vito, is you don't have to wait for your best book. Just put a book out, but do a good job at it. Like, be proud of what you put out, but it doesn't have to be your opus, right? It just needs to be good enough. Get it out there. So that's my WatchGuard. So WatchGuard is not my best book, but it just It's absolutely the landmark for me. I put my stake in the ground. Now, spider-squirrel, I'd not done anything for a while, but I was going on American Ninja Warrior, and I was training and practicing and doing all this stuff, and I'd already spent all my time, as Vito noted earlier in the intro, with Spartan races and Tough Mudders. I actually got in Men's Health magazine. I was a sponsored athlete. I was a paid athlete, so I guess technically I was a professional athlete. And while I was getting ready for American Ninja Warrior, it was my next new thing. These two kids were watching me while I was training, and oh, thank you, Steven. You're awesome, brother. While I was training and figuring out my B-reel stuff, these two kids were supposed to be training too in this open gym, and they were arguing instead of what I look like what kind of animal I look like. And so because I'm 6'3", as those of you who have met me in person, I got long arms and legs and everything, and one kid was like, "Oh, he looks like a spider. Look, he's climbing the walls and blah blah blah." And the other kid's like, "No, he's like a squirrel, just not as annoying," which is not true. And so they were. It was humorous at first, but then they got to where, "What's up, J-Man?" They got to where they actually were like yelling at each other. It felt like, and I was like, "Holy crap, I gotta like quell this." And so, like, guys, stop! I'll just be, the spider-squirrel. And I said it, and I was like, a logo went through my head. And I went home that night. I got an illustrator. I designed the logo with. Well, hold on. I haven't gotten there yet.
I was going to say
it was just the text version of it, and so, Blambot font. I did my Illustrator magic to it, and I had a local printer print it right on my training pants, and that became like my shtick. And then, Vito, we were on a call. It was you, me, Ray, and a couple other folks. Xion might have even been on that call.
I think Xion was on it.
Yeah, and Ray goes, "That would make a fun superhero. That would make a great superhero. You need to write that superhero." And I was like, "Damn, Ray, you're right." And so
Jamal might have been on that call too.
He might have been. I don't remember now who, because it's been 15 years. Or whatever. It's been at least a decade, and I'm old. But
stop with this insider talk. Say the names, the full names.
Jamal Eigel.
Sorry.
Jamal is our
Sean Isaacs, yeah, Sean and Ray Anthony Height. So Ray's got actually a book on Kickstarter right now too, by the way. Yep. But I told Ray, I was like, "Okay, bet, but you got to help me design the character." And he's like, "We're on, let's go."
Yeah.
Right. So that started there, and Ray and I went back and forth on some designs. It was funny because he gave me the first sheet back, and I said, "Why does this guy look like me?" He goes, "It has to be you." And I go, "Okay,
it has to be you."
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So it is not ego entirely. You got spider-squirrel looking like me. It was Ray. So you want to blame anybody, blame Ray. But anyway, I came up with the chest emblem finally, and then I showed Vito, and Vito goes, "Wait a minute." He's like, "Turn that tail 90 degrees." So it did look like that, or maybe it was something like that. And Vito goes, "Turn it." And I go, "Oh my God, it makes an S."
That's incredible.
That's it.
That's incredible.
And so the three of us came up with.
It takes a village, my friend. It takes a village.
So he's got many.
You know what you're making me think right now, and again, we do this on the show, and it's because this is what happens when we have phone calls and hang out in person. Have you ever seen? Here, I thought I was good where you guys, but have you ever seen Steve Ditko's rendering of Jack Kirby's original version of Spider-Man?
I don't think
I believe
if
so.
I have, I don't recall.
So Steve Ditko would, write in his self-published black and white comics, like essays and stuff. And at one point, and you can look it up online right now, there's a famous, essay where he wrote about the creation of Spider-Man, okay? And talks about Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, and how I believe Stan Lee asked Jack Kirby first to do Spider-Man. And when he came in with the idea, he was like, "You're the wrong guy for this one." And then went to Steve Ditko, and Steve Ditko came up with the Spider-Man we came to love and know today, right?
Right.
So, but Jack Kirby's like, he has a gun, and he just looks like one of the Jack Kirby characters. Look it up.
I'm looking at it right now. I think so.
You're looking at it right now. I've always wanted to do a Spider-Man story where Spider-Man meets the very first Spider-Man, like, and make that canon,
That's so cool. Okay,
we can't show this on our thing, can we, Vito? Do you have the ability
to present if you
to share a share screen or something and look it up, and it's very there's nothing special about the design, really.
No, I mean it's
You
a
know?
very basic. I mean, honestly, it's a. I could see this as even a fourth world character. It's so Kirby.
Sure,
Yeah,
sure. But this is like 1961, or 62 that Kirby. So this is at least 10 years before like New Gods and whatnot.
that's wild.
Did you find it, Vito?
Yeah, I'm trying to pull it up now.
And anyway, I just thought it'd be interesting to make that canon, and or is it copyrightable? I guess it's a copyright drawing for Steve Ditko, I assume, right? Since he actually drew it and he's conveying this story about this is what basically Jack Kirby's design was, which is interesting,
Can you see it or no?
No. Click the little plus sign at the bottom middle of your panel. Should be your share screen.
Hold on 1 second. I found it.
Or maybe put it in the pages of Spider-Squirrel somehow.
I mean,
like
put it as a poster in the background.
I'm surprised Eric Larson hasn't done anything with this character yet.
No kidding, right?
Oh, the browser can't access my screen. Oh, sorry about that.
Bummer. Well, you can look it up. Or is there a link you can put into the?
Oh yeah, there you go.
If people want to go look at it. Anyway.
So that's how Spider-Squirrel was born. Yeah, and Trash Panda was just. I knew it needed to be a buddy cop action comedy, and so he was actually a throwaway character. I just kind of wrote him in there just to give me some like banter. It turned out he was so super popular. I'm like, okay, this is stupid. So I'm gonna make him a titled character. So now the next volume is gonna be Spider-Squirrel and Trash Panda,
which is great. And listen, I think most side characters are the best characters. Wolverine was better as a side character to me.
I can't argue that. Yeah, I think you're right. 100% agree that he was. I enjoyed like when he did the Madripoor series. Like that was a nice standalone series because it was different. It was a little darker, a little bit more.
Or Larry Hama and John Buscema. It's come on, you can't go wrong, right?
Agreed.
But when you start to do origins and expand and really fulfill the character out, like it's like Boba Fett got less interesting to me when he had a series. Like Boba Fett's more interesting if he was the Mandalorian.
Yeah. Well, and like. So I said the same thing about Cable and Wolverine alike. I was like, they were more interesting characters, but I didn't know crap about their backgrounds. Now, that being said, I can't live. I have like every collected version of Weapon X from Barry Windsor Smith, right? Like
sure.
That's seminal. That book.
But that's enough of an addition where it's still like it just gave you a little more and actually asked more questions than gave answers in a way, which is much more interesting. So. But yeah, anyway, whatever. I do think that I feel like I've only ever created side characters. Like I remember thinking about like when I was a youngster and I was trying to come up with comic book ideas. One of my ideas was to take famous sidekicks from Shakespeare plays and make a team out of them.
Oh,
and this is before that Tom Stoppard play where Guildenstern what's
Rosencrantz and Guildenstern.
Are dead, right? Are dead, right? So it's before that, and I wanted to do a series with Mercutio, Tybalt, Iago. The only problem is I didn't have a storyline, but to me, they were always the best characters that showed up on the side and like kind of messed with the story a little bit, Whereas Romeo and Juliet,
Red Hook is a side character to his own story when you think about it. At least in the
absolutely.
Like
the way I write,
him.
Everything I write about in the Red Hook is what's happening around him, and he's kind of an anchor. And then hopefully, what good storytelling is how does this affect the protagonist, or what kind of a change do they go through a little bit here and there, So, all right, so then we get to I think there's a couple other comics after Spider-Squirrel and Trash Panda. Like you have other characters right now, like you mentioned American Yakuza.
Yeah.
What else?
Vito did the first spinoff, God Quest, which was originally Milestone. That was a whole fun conversation with the Warner Brothers VP of legal. It never went anywhere. It wasn't like I'd violated anything. It was just a conversation. But
because for the listeners, Milestone is also a character. Was the publishing?
It's an imprint
from DC. From primarily Black writers and artists, right? Creating characters.
And admittedly, my character was Yeah, now like
Right.
Icon's back. He's in a current series or something like that. He's a side character again. Again, like I said earlier, like they don't care about Milestone. They don't seem to care about the Milestone Media Group as much as they let on. They're buying into Static because Static is popular and people like Static. The cartoon was great.
Right.
There you go. That was one of the first books out of there. Yeah,
Wait, what's
Milestone
Night
Media.
Care?
Oh,
So
we'll get
Nightmare with Scott Fogg, that's the first book that I published that was not my own in any way, shape, or form. Like it was,
Oh, okay.
I had zero to do with the creative aspect. I was just the publisher.
You were the publisher. Okay, so you're publishing it with Scott. Okay, cool.
Yep. And then Vito did God Quest for me, which was originally called Milestone. That was the title character. So there it is with the God Quest branding.
Hey, it's signed by Charlie McElvy too.
What? That jackass never
Nice.
signs anything.
Nice.
It's not worth anything now. It was worth $3 before that. But so yeah, Vito did that, and we're still working on that series. And then I did a couple other books. I did a Teen Force 5 recently, which is a retro throwback special, which now people want more of, which is great. So I'll do some more of those next year. And then then American Yakuza came along, and that's when I did my first mature audiences book. So this one's it's out of universe if you think in terms of Spider-Squirrel and Trash Panda.
Hence the Blind Squirrel and Xion.
Exactly. Yeah, that's where my little internal schism kind of occurred is right there. And when I started doing that, I realized I wanted to make sure that some kids didn't see the Xion thing and go, oh, hey, that must be good too, and flip it open and find, somebody getting a rim job.
Well, Charlie, let me ask you this question because
you just dropped that so quickly, and Dean just moved on.
No, I'll tell you why. Because now you're making me think. You actually have a third strand, a third tentacle. You have Blind Squirrel, which has a shared universe of your characters. You have Xion, which is like one-offs and not necessarily part of a group of a universe, right? But then you are going to be publishing Stray, and you did publish the debut of my character, Chestface, right? Now, where's the universe crossovers there? Is there a crossover universe between the Blind Squirrel universe and New Brooklyn? And then where does Stray live?
Stray is actually within the same universe as Spider-Squirrel. He actually shows up in Spider-Squirrel number 3.
So it's in that universe.
Yeah.
Did you ever declare it before that though, Vito?
I think it was kind of inherent. Like I don't think we actually said it, out loud. You're not wrong, Gary.
Wait, did somebody say rim job? And then
he did. He was talking about Xion Studios and how he changed the imprint to Blind Squirrel, because if you open up, like if a kid sees a Xion Studios logo and goes, oh, I like Spider-Squirrel, this must be cool, opens up American Yakuza, you might see somebody getting a rim job. And you totally glossed over it.
I did not hear that last part. I apologize. Rim job.
This is going to be a running gag the whole rest of the night. Now, is that somebody going to draw a rim job character with a life?
But wait, we don't have a rim job character?
I don't.
We will in Chestface, probably.
We will. Where's Matt Major? Get him on it right now.
Chestface and rim job.
He's probably watching, but
he probably is.
That's hilarious, man. That is, I did not hear that. Somehow I went blind and deaf.
Not only that, you said something about Charlie having a third tentacle, and he went this.
Oh my! Is a transformer?
Oh my God!
Yes, it fell into glory hole. Turns into glory holes. What happens, right?
Yeah. He transforms into a glory hole.
Gary.
Emphasis on the gag.
Boy.
We're now an hour in. We have not talked about Claymore yet. We need to. Let's talk about.
We will get there.
Yeah, we were getting there. Yeah. Yep. So
I think we're there because I don't know what more.
So yeah. Well, no, let's go ahead and feed into that. So let's do a proper segue. So you were getting at the shared universe thing. Well, Scott told me when one of the covers alludes to it, that he wrote Night Care, and part of it, man, we're so far off the rails. We started off the rails, Stephen. What the hell are the rails anyway?
Yeah.
So that's in universe already. So the nice thing is they're different cities. So they can be Stray could be in his city, and Spider-Squirrel is in Richmond, and Watchguard's in Summit City, which is a couple hours away from Richmond already. I've defined that. So they could be in universe and never come across each other. So although we had Stray show up in Spider-Squirrel 3 of the deluxe edition, which will be 5 of the new edition. And so forth. So they're all in, Dean. I mean, they're all part of the same universe. Now, the question you asked about like New Brooklyn and the Blind Squirrel universe, I mean, that's entirely up to us, right? I think at this point, I think it can be implied that we've got some crossover elements, but again, it never has to happen again if it doesn't work out for a good story, right?
Well, also these characters can leave New Brooklyn and travel to Summit City or whatever,
vice versa.
Anywhere, all that.
I know that I've been teasing it for a while that Purple Heart will be coming to Stray, and the question will always come up. Well, Stray's in New York City currently before he goes to Kappa City. How does he not know that the Brooklyn Bridge has moved away from the city? And I already have an explanation for that.
Nice.
Well, you can do that, but also don't forget the way. Spoiler for people who haven't read the Red Hook on Webtoon, and there's 4.5 seasons that I do plan to publish as an omnibus with new material. But Brooklyn secedes physically and literally from Manhattan or New York, ergo America, to start its own republic. And for about 5 years is a 5-year story, and then eventually comes back and builds bridges back to. So wherever Purple Heart or this storyline, and then Purple Heart actually flies off to other planets to help save, heal their hearts, as it were, right? So that's an easy. It depends on where you put it. Like I was going to mention 2 movies I watched recently. And remind me when I get there, and I'll make the Purple Heart analogy. But I do want to finish and land on Claymore, and we'll end also the podcast later on with Claymore. But you have been kickstarting all your comics?
Yeah.
Charlie? Okay. A timeline would be helpful. Yeah. So with all your Kickstarters, they've all been pretty successful. And now we're at Claymore, which has reached 101%.
102. Thanks, Stephen.
102 now. Sweet. And so tell us a little bit about Claymore. What's the story? Who are the creatives? Where does Claymore live? Claymore is in the Xion world.
He's you're right. He's Xion, so not a predefined universe. That marries up with anything else. So it's not like he necessarily is in the same universe as Yakuza. Good.
I wanted to mention that I did invite Scott to come on, but he's not feeling well. So get well, Scott, first of all, and then
get well, Scott.
We're going to leave it all to Charlie to explain.
Oh yeah, you guys are hoes now. Let me make up whatever I want about Claymore. So Claymore's in the American West, 1872, but it's that kind of alt universe where you've got werewolves and you've got monsters, but are the monsters real? Is the question that's really kind of asked by the book. So you've got this, itinerant sheriff, as it were. He's not really a sheriff, but I'm just kind of giving you like the lawman kind of a thing, where he's going around and he's a monster hunter. His whole gig, Claymore, is a Scottish character that is going around and carries this gigantic claymore sword, hence the name. And he is ridding towns, of these monsters. Now, the book, like I said, kind of has a meta to it. Like it's asking, what are really who are the real monsters? Is it monsters or is it men? And do monsters
people, men?
Yeah. So it's really neat because he's the only, the character has to blindfold himself to fight these monsters, because the only way he can see them, his supernatural ability to see them, is only when he is blindfolded. So he has to be able to not see. Could he close his eyes? Probably, but a blindfold ensures that he can fight successfully. And that's one of those things where, because he's the only one that can see them, you could also make the argument that he's a lunatic and he's actually just slaughtering people, right? In the case. So it's a really neat twist on things. When Scott presented it to me, and Scott did Night Care, and I'd already published that 3 issues of the 4 of that one. Hopefully we'll get the 4th one out next year. Ding. Scott presented it to me, and I was like, that's a really cool story. I like the premise. I like the general idea of it. Sure, let's go. So here we are with Claymore, and what we're doing with Claymore is, rather than being a one-shot or a series, this is a series of one-shots. And so what we'll do is they're not going to have any particular order. Scott will have a story, and he'll tell a story. And in that case, it kind of reminds me of a little bit of a Japanese storytelling where he's focusing on a character and the character's adventures, with him being the epicenter, and then dealing with everything around him, right? So everything else kind of circles around. So he's the sun, and everything else circles around him, so to speak. So in that model, we can kind of go wherever we want to, and Scott can create whatever stories he wants to.
It's very helpful in that way too.
Yeah, that's a good reference there. So yep. So I really thought it was really cool, and I wanted to publish it for him.
You just mentioned how it's a series of one shots, and we've talked about this in the past when like a lot of people will, or creators, comics creators will launch a Kickstarter for the first issue and then try to do the second issue and the third issue. And Vito has been through this. And it just gets more and more difficult to get to part 3 of a story, of a 5, 6, 8-part story. And what I discovered by watching Vito and a lot of other creatives use Kickstarter was, oh no, I think it might be smarter to do one-shots, which is what I've been doing, right? But meanwhile, I am doing a sequel to COVID Cop in my Antimatter campaign, which actually, we'll put this up later. I'm putting this into the our private chat here because I want to also remind people that I did get late pledges put back on to Antimatter. So we talked about this in our last episode, but while we're talking about it tonight, I want to remind people about the fact that Antimatter, my one-man anthology featuring all my deep cut characters like the Red Hook, Chest Face, Billy Dogma, Jane Legit, COVID Cop, and plus more,
AI Joe,
is still open and available. So, and it's gonna be probably open and available for the next couple of months because I'm still working on the comic. So why not gain more sales? So
I totally agree. Yeah, they're pre-orders, right? Just get out
just
there.
Pre-orders, or if you want, some of the fun extra tiers, that's available right now. But Claymore sounds really cool. My question to you is, forgive me, what is a Claymore?
It's a Scottish sword.
So it's an actual real life, a style of a sword. Does it have certain...
Yeah, if you just Google Claymore sword, you'll see all kinds of examples. It's similar, not dissimilar to what William Wallace carried in Braveheart, right? So that's slightly different, but yeah.
And does it possess any kind of Excalibur type powers or anything, or do you have to read it to find out?
You'll have to read the book to find out, won't you?
There you go. So in a way, he's kind of like a oh God, who's the monster hunter for all the Universal? What am I thinking of?
Like Van Helsing?
Van Helsing. Is he like a Van Helsing meets Hellboy kind of a thing?
Yeah, that's probably not a bad compare. Obviously, some variation on that theme. And I don't know where Scott's ultimately going with it, so I get to read it kind of as a fan, as my wife's the associate editor. So as she rips apart the scripts, I get to learn it all. But she does it to me too, fellas. Just for the record,
that's me.
Good.
Yeah,
that's good.
She gets it before Vito does.
Oh, you have 2 editors.
I do. So Susie's the associate. So here's how I work it. So Suzanne spends more of her time on grammar and voice. Like that's really her big things. She'll tell me, it's like, what the hell is this supposed to mean? Like, dude, that's a great description, Marcus.
What did he say? What are you guys looking at?
The chat. He'll put it up in a second. Boom.
Oh, excellent. Well, there's some marketing right there, man.
Description of Claymore right there.
Yeah, man.
He's after the next Kickstarter.
So then Vito comes along and he, because Suzanne's already done the slaughtering of the words, she'll, in a good way, he gets to focus more on the continuity, the overarching voice of the characters, making sure the page consistency, making sure I don't say the same damn phrase 3 times in the same panel. Which I've done before. So thank you, Vito. So that's we do have 2 editors. So we actually act a little bit more professional than a bunch of just self-publishers typically would.
No, it's cool. And we got each other's back. I know I've sent you guys my scripts, just to see if there's anything going off the rails, intentionally or not. And while we're talking about Scott Fogg, is it the same artist working on Claymore as Night Care? And what is Night Care about?
No, different. Actually, we had 2 different artists on Night Care because the original artist on issues 1 and 2 is now doing Silverhawks for Dynamite.
Right. George Cambadeus is his name.
Yep.
Oh, cool.
So we had a different Greek artist, Lynn Gogu, who is doing the pencils and inks, and then Dennis Yatras, a Greek colorist, is doing the colors. They're actually pals, and so they wanted to work together and hadn't had a chance, and it was a good opportunity to put them together. Night Care is Adventures in Babysitting meets the Avengers, or probably a little bit more of an elevator pitch to say it's what do you, if you're a superhero or a supervillain and you have a superpowered kid running around, what do you do when you're either out saving the city or wrecking the city at night? Well, you put your kid in night care. And so the supervillains kids and the superheroes kids are all in night care together. And so you can already see kind of like where that could probably go.
Oh, that's great.
It's a really fun premise. I was really jazzed about it when Scott brought it to me. It was our first all ages book too, which I really loved because I wanted to get something all ages out there. I know those don't typically do well on Kickstarter, and I was braced for that, but we did well. So
cool. Yep. Sweet. That reminds me a little bit. That concept reminds me of Pixar films, and of course The Incredibles, and they had that baby. And it was like a great, they made a lot of shorts, like Pixar does great shorts. And one of them, I think, was like the babysitter comes over to babysit the Incredibles baby. I forget the name of the character.
Jack.
And it's a horror show. Is what it is. It's unbelievable.
You can tell that Charlie and I have kids because we both knew the name of Jack immediately.
Yeah, and that short's called Jack Attacks. It was it's interstitial, right? Because you could actually watch The Incredibles, pause, watch that, and then finish The Incredibles. Yeah, it's really cool.
Exactly. Well, so Claymore has one more day.
Yep.
And then what is coming up in 2026?
Man, so I'm.
We haven't talked, have we?
Still fine. Do we have to say this publicly? No. Still finalizing the publishing plans. One thing I am doing is this year I went gangbusters, and this is what my 7th or 8th campaign this year. Probably not going to do that again next year. One, I feel like the timing is just awful, and I love my family and I love spending time with my kids. Yes, I pack books at the dining room table, and my kids are running in and out, and we're actually able to engage. I have older kids, so it's easier to do that. But next year, I think we're going to focus more on the core. So you're going to see Spider-Squirrel Volume 2, which will start with issue 6, which will seem really weird for those of you who bought issues 1, 2, and 3, and you're going, well, where the hell are 4, 5, and we're 4 and 5.
Right.
We did a Redux campaign, as you know, Dean, where I took issues 1, 2, and 3 of the deluxe edition, which I'm almost giving away on my website now. I think with the Fitty discount, it's $2.50 plus shipping now for each issue to move through the inventory, regardless of whether they're variants or not. Except for a couple of the store variants, I kept higher price to not take money away from the stores. Right. But I broke those out into 2-ish issues each. So that's how we ended up with 5 issues. And then the 12-page epilogue that appeared only in the trade, I reprinted in issue 5 of the Redux campaign. So the Redux all has the Blind Squirrel logo corner box. It all has the Spider-Squirrel and Trash Panda logo. So that's how you can differentiate. And then we broke them up into smaller chunks of like 24 to 26 pages each, plus back matter. So anyway, we'll do Spider-Squirrel Volume 2 starting with issue 6. So that's issue 1 of Volume 2, if that makes any sense at all.
Yep.
We're gonna have a blast.
A new number one, and then people can catch up easily by reading that.
Yeah,
right?
I'm gonna keep the legacy running. It's gonna be issue 6, but I'll list it as Volume 2. Number 1.
Got it.
I'll figure it out. And you can still get the other 5 issues when I do that one. And then we're going to do some more God Quest. So Vito and I are going to do some more God Quest. I think we have issue 3 pretty much in the bag.
Yeah, I'm just touching up the letters.
Yep. So, and then I'll do final pre-press, and that'll be ready. I'd love to get Night Care 4 out and finish that up, and then do the collected edition of that one. And then American Yakuza 5, which will be the final issue of the first act, and we're already planning the second act, which should be a lot of fun. Next year we'll do that, and we may finally finally see the fundamentals come out, which is a one shot that I've been working on for 2.5 years now. I wrote it, well, Scott wrote it like 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Long time coming. We got some great, beautiful covers coming for that. It's my love letter to Fantastic Four, honestly.
Is he doing one?
Who's that?
The one, that
Dane?
guy.
I think you asked me.
We talked about it. Yeah,
we talked about it. So I gotta do one at some point, but we'll talk.
We'll figure it out. And then the other big things that I have planned are my first 2 anthologies. So I've got Vagabond, which is about 3/4 where I want it to be. I think I want to make it a little bit larger of a tome. So I think we're at 96 pages. I want to kind of crest over the 100 plus, maybe 120, 128 pages. And
I think my story's 12, so I mean,
yep.
Oh
yeah, I've got a few stories that are kind of waiting anyway. Ron Mars is doing a story, and I haven't got him and Will Conrad are doing a Wild West story, which should be really good.
Nice.
And then I've got Ballistic Adrenaline, which is my really violent, like John Wick-ish anthology that I want to do. Dude, if you watch the John Wick series and then go watch the Push movie with Chris Evans from 2009, you basically have the petri dish of what's needed to birth the Ballistic story. We're gonna have
Matt Major's doing a cover for that. I think he told me the other day he was doing a cover for that.
Who's that?
Matt Major.
Matt and I are talking. Yes. Oh yeah, and Marcus. Yeah, I did publish Rook. It's out there. I haven't put it on my store yet. I need to do that.
So you have a lot coming up in 2026, and I know
you mentioned Stray once, son of a bitch.
I know, pretty good.
Well, I haven't gotten there yet. I mean, we're just kind of working through the stuff, but fine. You know more what's going on with that than I do, actually.
It's I have 6 issues done, artwork. I just need colors, and that's pretty much it. You have number 2 that I haven't seen yet, right?
3's next. Yeah.
Yeah, 3 is colored, so I mean 3 is ready. But what do you call it? Yeah, I don't even have a copy of number 2.
Yeah, I know. I need to send you some comps for that. So I've got now that I'm actually completely done. Although I just had somebody fill out a survey yesterday, which is weird.
Yeah, I saw that.
I will now that I'm done through the shipping of the backers, I'll send you your comps because
I haven't bothered Charlie all year. It feels like
I miss you.
Talk to him about anything. I'm just like, let him. He's not doing Kickstarters very much. We had this conversation. It's funny. I posted something on Substack today about how I'm just tired. It's just all these things are happening, and it's not just like creative. It's just just tired. And I was just thinking like Kickstarter is not even Kickstarter anymore. And you and I were talking about that, Charlie, not too long ago, about how strategies almost have to change now because Kickstarter is a little bit it's not a reliable source anymore. It's not something that you can count on to there. I would say there's probably a handful of guys that can. One of them is like Michael Kingston, who does the Headlock books, which are like wrestling based books, but he also gets
those are going to do well anyway. Yeah,
work on them, so it kind of brings in an audience. But it's tough whenever it's just like, here's my talent, and I don't have anybody else, to kind of, I don't want to say vet, but to endorse that, I guess.
Yeah. So Kickstarter has, I'm going to say devolved, and it sounds like a pejorative, but I don't really mean it as one. The strike is over, which is nice. I don't think that's going to significantly improve how books are funded. I'll be honest. And I don't say this as a naysayer or a doomsayer. I love Kickstarter, and I will support Kickstarter and Zoop and a lot of these other crowdfunding platforms because I think they're what we need. But I think they've gone back to really how they were pre-COVID. So COVID changed things. Like I came in and really started doing more with Kickstarter right at the onset of COVID and stuff like that. So I was the beneficiary of what was going on with that. But and a lot of us were, but like Charlie Stickney and Pat Shand and the Cat Calamias and Phil and those guys, they'll do Phil Falco. They'll keep doing what they're doing because they have their niche. Like they've really carved out a very specific, very good niche. Their branding is on point and they never veer. Guys like me, I have a brand that is, and Charlie Stickney says this all the time. Like, my brand is my personality. Like everything about my brand is me. What you see is what you get, but that doesn't always pull in the same audience every single time, right? So it becomes very, very challenging when you broaden out and do all these books that I do. So whether it's publishing Scott's books or Stray, or even my own books, it becomes very diluted.
Right.
What I'm getting at is Kickstarter still great. The problem is I think people are now going to Kickstarter expecting to get 5, 6, 7, 8K, and they're struggling to get 3.5K. And I go, guys, I've been on Kickstarter for 15 years. I'm struggling to get 3.5K sometimes. It depends, right? When you start thinking of a Kickstarter as a Kickstarter, right? So you a spark isn't a fire. A spark starts a fire, but a spark is not a fire. It's just it's a flash. It's a momentary thing. When you can think of Kickstarter as your flint and your flint rock, right? And you spark, you got to create the fire from that. If you can think of it that way and you can subsist that way, then you're going to do fine. But if you're going to walk into Kickstarter hoping to fund your whole book at 15K or whatever the hell you spent on it, you're probably going to struggle. In fact, I can guarantee you're going to struggle. I've seen some Hollywood guys. I was on a podcast with a gentleman, great looking book, phenomenal. I backed it as soon as I was like, God, this book is fantastic. And by the way, it's a Don Quixote based book. And I'm going, why is this book struggling? It's gorgeous. It's written by a known commodity. It's got all this backing. There's nothing wrong with this book. There's nothing wrong with the campaign. It's nothing about the campaign. It has everything to do about what they're trying to go after. And I think they're, I'm not criticizing. I just think they might be going after more than what that book is going to generate. If they'd been going for the spark and build the fire later, I think they'd be fine. And I think it's going to be fine anyway. I can't remember if it's at 100% or not, but I backed it. And I should know.
I love everything you just said, and I totally agree. And because I'm also learning, as you know, I'm still kind of new to Kickstarter, and I leaned on you, Charlie, and I knew what not to do because of Vito.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
And then there's Jimmy Palmiotti, who's like the godfather of Kickstarter comics, and I wonder how he's actually doing. In fact, so what I'm going to say though is, what recommends Kickstarter comics is that there's a culture of Kickstarter comics, but now it's become giant, and it is becoming diluted. And maybe I'm one of the people diluting it, by contributing to this.
Well, don't stop. Yeah.
But it is interesting what you say about using it as a spark, and I do rely when I've done on Kickstarter to be my savior, but it can't be. It has to be part of a bigger plan, just one part of something,
Yeah. I think of it as part of the funnel. So if you're into funnel marketing or that philosophy, there's a top of a funnel, which is where people, kind of, if you can get them even looking at the funnel, they're looking down into the funnel, right? And your goal is to create a black hole of sorts where they don't just sit and spin around the event horizon the whole time, but you end up sucking them down through it, right?
Right.
If you think of marketing that way, then I would put Kickstarter. I would have put Kickstarter as the whole funnel at one point. For a few years, it was very much get them interested, get them looking and attentive, and then pull them in, and then get them through, and then bring them back. That's a full funnel, right? That's what you want. That's that whole life cycle of a customer, if you will. Kickstarter now is pretty much just top of funnel. It's getting people to notice your book.
Right.
It's not necessarily dragging them through the whole life cycle. That's going to rely on, you're going to need a web store. You're going to need a virtual presence. You're going to need to be able to do some more shows and things locally and globally. Globally, well, there it is again, to really kind of propagate your book the way you really want to.
Absolutely. And you mentioned a funnel. You mentioned a black hole. Vito, I just sent you in the private chat a link to a Kickstarter I just discovered. Again, we're talking Kickstarter comics, of a comic called Butthole World that looks so good to me, and it's only got 46 hours ago. I just
I
want to
like
give this guy
Alice.
some props. I don't know this guy. I don't think I know this guy.
Yeah, I've seen Eli's stuff before. He's a really
Wait,
solid
what's his
artist.
name? Eli
Eli
Powell?
Powell.
Yeah, of course he set his goal to $666, and he's got over
That's
1,000.
awesome.
He's got almost over 1,200. And I don't know, man. I just, again, talking about the culture of Kickstarter comics, it's an awesome culture, you know. But
Yeah.
there's so many of us who knew that there were that many cartoonists that wanted to make comics. You know, it's kind of incredible with the lack of comic shops that we have, and you know, it's become difficult. You know.
Yeah,
I think
and
what you're forgetting though, Dean, is that a lot of people didn't know that they could make comics unless they were at Marvel or DC. So Kickstarter
Yeah.
kind of opened that door up. You know,
Yeah.
like it kind of made it feasible for them to make comics. I'm
Right.
sorry, Charlie, I stepped on something you were saying.
no, you're good. You're good. I was just noting that I was going to notice that the book I was referencing actually did get funded. So yay. But and we've come full circle with Rim Job. Oh my god!
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Vito, post that comment and please, for the record. But also,
Yes.
definitely please put up just a link real quick for Butthole World.
Yeah, give me 1 second.
And then I think Charlie also sent something.
Yeah, I met
Clash of the Classics.
Yeah, I met Tom rather. Sorry, I was thinking of Danny Faust because we were just talking about Rook a little bit ago. Good grief! I met Tom Pinchuk on another podcast, I think with Travis Gibb, and he showed me his book, and I was like, "Oh my god, that's such a cool book, and it's a great concept." He's taken War of the Worlds and Don Quixote and smashing them together, and like now you've got this and you can tell that he's read both books or like the source material and really is passionate about it, and it comes across, so it's accurate but full circle. Jesus Christ.
Is that a name for Butthole World as well? Full circle.
But yeah, that's volume 2. Butthole World.
That's volume 2.
Circle. Yeah. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Who's his arch enemy? The Full Monty? I don't know. It's just, you know.
This is our audience, our target audience. You can make rim job jokes for about an hour.
You wanted to know who our audience was. Well, you know, let's get
all
on.
Of
let's
us
get
12
on
years
these
old.
characters.
Yeah.
So, since we've talked about Claymore and stuff, I wanted to bring up, just random stuff. You know what I watched the other night that you guys have probably seen a million times that I just watched for the first time? I watched Throne of Blood by Akira Kurosawa.
Oh, I had that on Blu-ray.
It is the thing that I'm like stunned by is the he does these tracking shots that are so deceptive. They make it look like the whole set is huge, and it really establishes like kind of like like you can make a small army bigger. And then, but just the way he's tracking, it's like he's using forest and rain. I mean, obviously, the rain and stuff, but like it is just so like gorgeous looking. Like
it's Macbeth, right? Like it's a retelling of Macbeth, and it's was it Toshiro Mifune, and who was in like everything that Akira Kurosawa does, and it's phenomenal. It is one of those like I could watch that all the time.
Yeah.
I have that one, Ron, and a few others on Blu-ray. The Criterion collection, they're fantastic.
Yeah, I want to watch one of his noir movies, or like crime movies more than like a samurai one. But we'll see.
There's one you got to watch. I forget. I can see the cover. I can't remember the name of it for whatever reason.
Yeah, I'm drawing a blank as well. Did you watch it, Dean?
So I have 2 movies I quickly want to talk about. Ballerina, which I saw last night, which is from the world of John Wick.
Yep.
And I said I was going to make a little callback to Purple Heart.
Right.
So you're going to make Ana de Armas. Is that her name?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Who's awesome. And, it's what you expect the movie to be, with, this female kicking ass and getting an origin story and all that. And, of course, you have to have John Wick in it.
Baba
But
Yaga.
John Wick is dead supposedly as of spoiler, as of John Wick 4.
Right.
Okay, he ain't dead, but whatever. Okay, he's dead. But where does he fit in this story? Is it the
So
next?
this
Is
is
this John
that's
Wick
John
5?
Wick
No.
3.5. So that's John Wick 3.5.
So is it 3.5? Because I was trying to remember
Yes.
when they showed. So they showed. So the point I was trying to make. John Wick shows up, but then you're like, well, how is he in this movie? And when in his story is this happening? This story, and they tell you when if you know the John Wick lore, right?
Yep.
And then he does come back, and he is another essentially part of the story. So Vito, I was thinking like, Purple Heart could actually come and be a part of the story you plan to involve him in during my New Brooklyn 5-year, story, or
Yeah.
afterwards or whatever. It doesn't matter, like we can figure these things out, what I have to say about the movie, it's like a John Wick movie. It's a good story. And it's almost like you could almost write it yourself at the same time if you know
What do you
John
mean?
Wick stuff.
Like just based on
Remember like Angelica Houston's character has ballerinas and stuff,
Mhm.
like, so you just get a young version of Anna de Armas and then grows up to become this killer, right? And so
like it writes itself.
it starts to write itself a little
Yeah.
bit. If you know the John Wick lore at all, you can pretty much figure out how to make it work. But I will say this. There are some action scenes in this movie that I have never seen or even conceived of. Could never
Yeah.
have conceived of.
I love, especially when she's it's the last scenes when she's inside the castle.
And the bombs.
Oh my God. Some of those were
What
like
is going on? Like
genius. Yes.
the grenades stuff, and
Yes.
that's insane. But do you remember the car scene?
Yes. That's another great
She's
one.
driving
What
a
are you
car
doing
away
now?
from a thing,
Yeah.
and then gets hit by another car. It's all one take, and it's being shoved back, and they're shooting at her, and she
So
is now
good.
outside her car shooting back, and you cannot believe what you're watching.
It's really,
Can't
really good
believe
in
it.
that sense.
See,
Yeah.
I didn't think anything could top the number one, the horses in 3 kicking,
Oh,
like
right.
fighting
Oh,
with the horses, and then like the
Right.
two German shepherds in 3 as well. Like I thought, like nothing could top those things, But I haven't
Right.
seen Ballerina yet, so that
It's
informs
fun.
me.
If you're into the
Yeah.
John Wick lore, if you like
I
the
love
John
it.
Wick series, I recommend just watching Ballerina and letting it fill the gaps, because it picks up that you have that ballerina in John Wick 3.
Yeah.
That's the character, right? Now it's a different actress, but
Mhm.
even though the actor is different,
The
Anna
one
de
who
Armas
keeps
is a
falling
really
down and from hurting
yes,
your feet and
I think
everything.
that's
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
implied. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yep.
And there's
So
some really good stuff in here. And of course, there's got to be a ballerina 2, 3, 4, whatever.
Yeah.
Keep coming. And
yeah.
they set up a interesting character with the actor who plays Daryl Dixon in
Oh,
Walking Dead.
yeah. I could see his face. Holy crap!
Same.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm forgetting his name. Sorry. You know
Somebody
what?
will
I'm
throw the
using.
chat for us because
I was
whatever.
gonna say, like, I'm surprised it hasn't come up yet.
But yeah, check it out. It's a lot of fun. And again, it's starting. What was cool about John Wick is that it didn't need to get that mythological to be fun, but it really got in, like there's a lot of
Yeah.
weird backstory, like
Yeah.
throughout all the films. So Charlie the Bad Sleep Well, what's that mean?
It's
Oh,
a
Norman Reedus.
It's a Akira Kurosawa movie with Toshiro
Oh,
Mifune.
okay.
It's
And Norman
it's more
Reedus
of a-
is a character that they might be able to. Now, the other movie I wanted to share real quickly is, see, this one's called The Editor.
oh,
So The Editor
is that
is a
intestines
movie.
going through the thing?
Yes.
Yes,
it's
it
intestines
is.
going
I
through
mean, that's
the
what I would
film
make
reel.
it. That's what it looks like.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
So it's a horror film, but are you guys familiar with the term giallo? Right?
Yeah.
Which is Italian horror from the 60s and
Mhm.
70s, maybe even veering into the 80s, Dario Argento type movies. So The Editor is a complete homage to a whole bunch of like giallo, Dario and Argento movies, mixed a little bit with like 80s kind of new wave music, kind of sort of electronica. And it's a bad movie, not a terrible movie. It's a really bad movie that is great, if you
I
know what
love
I
that.
mean. Like every scene is intentional. I'll put it that way. The way the acting is, the writing is intentional because it's paying homage, right, to these other movies. And yet somehow you're watching a scene, you're like, this is kind of bad. And then does stuff that you've never seen before, and you're like, what the hell am I watching? And you keep needing to watch the movie, you know? It starts to not make any sense at some point, and it doesn't matter, you know? So I don't even know how to recommend it. It's produced by directed, and it's like the guys who direct it are starring in the movie, and they're not actors.
So it's
And
like it's like Napoleon Dynamite, but not as funny.
right. Although it's funnier. And it's sexier, and it's got everything you want in terms of boobs and blood and all that stuff.
And it's
you know,
made,
like
it's a modern movie. It's a current movie.
so it's done. It was made. Oh God, was it recently? These guys are known for a movie called Father's Day, and they also did a movie called Manborg. And Manborg was made for $1,000.
No way.
These guys are Canadians. They're a part of a group called Astron 6, ASTRON-6.
Oh,
Astron
I thought that was the porno Astron 6. I was
No,
okay.
yeah, right.
I thought it was cybernetic.
No, well, it kind of
rim job.
has that yeah, rim jobs are next movie. But and then they also they did something Psycho Gorman, I think.
Yes.
That's their most commercial, I think, movie they made.
Okay.
Was Psycho Gorman. And like they're this little posse, kind of like us, who go off and make weird shit, and they're paying homage, like I said, to Giallo films with the editor, which is a lot of fun. And look, it's a Blu-ray and it's got like special packs, so it can't be that bad, right?
I mean, well, yeah. I mean,
the packaging looked nice.
I've seen some Snyderverse
it's a lot of
movies
fun,
on
man.
Blu-ray too, but you know.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So those are the two movies. Yeah, those are two movies I saw recently, and I just wanted to mention them here.
So speaking of ballerina and movies recommended, there's a Korean ballerina which is ultra violent and really actually well done. That is, I think it's on Netflix.
Yeah, it's Paz de la Huerta, Marcus. Yes, that's the one. The editor. Yeah, check it out. It's fun. Sorry, go ahead, Charlie.
No. I mean, I was pretty much finished. It was just, you know, if you want to, that one's interesting. It's a story of sexual abuse and suicide and revenge, and it's dark. It's as dark as it sounds, and it's very. It's called Ballerina.
Ballerina.
It's Korean. I think it's 2000. It's recent. It's like 2019ish. But it's it's on. I'm pretty sure it's on Netflix, and you can watch it dubbed. The dub is actually really good. So if you don't want to read, you can always listen and watch it.
Oh, what's that, Vito? It says
Q&A. I'm opening up the floor for questions. So
sweet. While you're doing that, you just said Ballerina, and we have two movies called Ballerina. I'm sure there might be more, but there are two really good movies called Mother. Have you seen? There's one Mother with an exclamation point, and then there's a Mother that was recently done with Jennifer Lawrence. Is that her name?
Oh, yeah. Where it was kind of like
she was dating the Aronofsky, called Mother.
Yes. Yeah.
Have you seen that?
I haven't.
No.
Do yourself a favor. You will not be prepared for this movie.
For which one?
The Aronofsky Jennifer Lawrence movie. Yeah.
Okay. Is it like?
I will say this: when I finished watching it, I felt like I had seen an expensive version of his senior film from film school. If that makes sense.
Is it anything like the Faye Dunaway Mommy Dearest?
Nope, not at all.
That's what I imagined it was. Okay.
I will say, and this is a little bit of a giveaway, it kind of reminds me a little bit, for a very specific reason, of a movie called Day of the Locust with Karen Black. Have you seen that?
I remember that movie.
All right, don't see Mother. And then there's the other Mother, which I feel like is a Korean film. That's great.
Love a Korean film.
The other Mother's from Coraline, dude.
No. I mean, I've never seen that.
Yeah,
South Korean neo-noir film directed by Bong Joon-ho.
Oh, how about that?
2009. It's great.
No.
It's great. So if you want to watch a couple of Mother films, those are the ones to see. Okay. Oh, by the way, the Jimi Hendrix song is If 6 Was 9, not If 6 Was 7.
Right.
So the kids don't get to have that.
No. Do you have a verses? Let's do one verses if you have one.
I have a great versus that's one that we can
Okay,
do,
let's do one.
especially for you guys.
Do you know what versus is, Charlie?
I don't think I do.
I'm sure Dean will explain the concept here in a second. It's
All right.
how we end our shows.
This is our versus. So versus is when we match two. It's like a fight, a versus,
Yeah,
where
okay.
we match two creators, quote, against each other. Oh yeah, that was interesting. Tom said ballerina sort of sounds like Red Sparrow, a little bit, definitely. Yeah, and Aronofsky. No, I checked for never. Okay, cool. Here we go.
Yeah, we mentioned
So
Kirk.
But now you gotta like have a rim job joke every time. So I mean, apparently that's
every time. Gee Willikers. So we have a versus where we try to like in the past, we've done Kurt Busiek versus Mark Waid, and we talk about each of their careers and who would you have to pick one over the other if you had to, based on their oeuvre, how they impacted you as a creator, the whole gamut. So it's not like a hate thing. It's more of a love fest where we have to like ultimately decide who you would pick one over the other. But we're also uplifting and telling our audiences, who may not have heard of some of these people. What I'm about to say, though, everyone's heard of these people.
Because that's that guy.
Wait, exactly.
And again,
right, so here's the.
If anybody's got any questions while we're doing this, feel free to throw them in the chat. We will answer them up until.
We will answer them, absolutely. Yeah. And I think we only have 19 minutes left because I think we only have 2 hours on this, Vito. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, we'll end when we end.
We're good. All right, so this is a weird one because it's two people, but you'll see why I did. When I say two, it's like two people versus two people.
Two pairs. Okay, got it. Yeah.
All right, here we go. Wendy and Richard Pini versus Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird.
Jesus, why would you do that?
And now let's explain who they are. Let's give context.
Kevin and Peter are the creators of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, probably one of the most famous, most incredible black and white comics that started. I don't know if it started the black and white boom, but it certainly was part of the black and white boom of the 80s, where you have Grendel, basically all of Pacifico's output. Sophie's Choice but Happy. I don't know, man. We'll get there. But Comico's I said Pacifico, I meant Comico. Output in the 80s. Obviously, Turtles is a huge franchise. Spawned at least 6 movies, if not 7. Countless animated adaptations, toy lines. I can't Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is so ubiquitous. It's so hard to almost imagine a world where they don't exist. You know what I mean? Like where you don't see some influence of Turtles. And the craziest thing is, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles doesn't exist without Daredevil to a degree, because the origin of Daredevil impacts the origin of the Turtles.
Oh, isn't Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles like kind of like a satire, parody, homage to Daredevil and Ronin? Basically Frank Miller. It's a Frank Miller, homage, parody, and it wasn't supposed to do that well. I don't think they knew that when they did it.
Yeah.
And then listen, I've drawn a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle cover. Like, I'm part of the lore, and I don't know if I've ever read it. I have not seen the movie. I know the idea, you have like 4 turtles that are named after famous like Renaissance artists, and they're ninjas, but they're turtles, but they're mutants, and they're teenagers. And there's an analogy, what do you call it? Analogs of like Stick from Daredevil and other characters, right. I believe,
Winner, Stick. The other thing too is that it inspired countless copies of radioactive adolescent. Yeah, like radioactive
adolescent black belt hamsters. That's the one.
Yeah, you could even go as far as saying stuff like Tiger Sharks, the cartoon, maybe even like Thundercats. to a degree, maybe not, but you can see the influence. Anthropomorphic animals, like being eating pizza, like it's the craziest thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And then ElfQuest would be the other one. Husband and wife team, Wendy and Richard Pini. I don't know how many issues it ran for, but my God, it seems like it ran forever.
Well, I mean, they're still publishing new stuff.
Yeah.
So, so that was, we'll get there. I'll share my piece on that one later, but yeah, carry on.
Toughest thing about comparing these two is that I think Turtles is better compared to possibly the Tick, only because but I see why you compared these two, because of the double team.
I was doing the double team. Yeah.
Whereas, like, in terms of like the Tick also had television shows, cartoon, action figure line, so it makes sense that the Tick and the Turtles would be.
Although, I understand the action line and the TV shows. In fact, I was on set on the most recent Tick TV series because Tor Frudenthal was one of the directors, and I remember being on set in Brooklyn and hanging out with him while he was directing.
That was Peter Serafinowicz Tick version.
Is he English guy? Yeah. English actor? Yeah, that guy. Yeah. So that version.
So I can see those.
But I was going to say real quick. To me, Tick would be maybe versus Don Simpson's Megaton Man.
Megaton Man.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Hey, that's not a bad.
Even though Don hasn't had the TV presence or anything.
Yeah, no, you
anyway.
Get a point. But I feel like the Peonies have just, I think the biggest contribution that the Peonies have given to comics is like Wendy, like, and this is not a slight to Richard, but like Wendy being like a long running female creator, cartoonist, like she's an inspiration to so many women, that are in comics now, like Colleen Duran, like Trina Robbins, like Ramona Fredone. Like I feel like Wendy is constantly left out of those conversations, but she definitely belongs in those conversations.
Absolutely. And also another thing, just to go back to the Laird and Eastman, they created a very important grant called the Xeric Grant, if I'm correct.
Right.
Right? Yeah. Who some of our buddies, Jason Little, Josh Neufeld, a lot of people have used the Xeric Grant, which I don't think it exists anymore.
No.
But was Nick Bertozzi, I think, might have gotten a Xeric Grant, and got a lot of people, kind of like before Kickstarter, like.
Yeah. They also started a publishing company called Tundra, if I remember correctly, and that I don't remember who they carried, but like I'm going to look it up because I know that they had other creators there.
Right.
Oh, that's not exactly the Tundra I was looking for. It's so weird. It was just like this.
That's what we all say when we Google stuff anymore.
It's like this comic script. Oh, there you go. Tundra projects included Alan Moore and Bill Sienkiewicz's Big Numbers.
Big Numbers, that's right.
Alan Moore and Eddie Campbell's From Hell.
Wow.
Yep.
Alan Moore and Melinda Gebbe's Lost Girls. The Crow. Madman, who we talked about last week, and Dave McKean's Cages. Like, this is Eastman and Laird, or Kevin Eastman, I think, solely, putting together Tundra. But my goodness, like, without
and if I'm correct, Chris Stevens just announced his publishing concern, Lighthouse, and he's going to be reprinting Stephen Bissett's
Tyrant.
What's it called?
Tyrant. Isn't it called Tyrant?
Tyrant. Yes, I think you're right. Which is like a 4-issue like dinosaur miniseries that he did. So, and we're going to be talking to Chris soon at some point. Yeah. So, before we get to Charlie McElvy versus, which is an interesting question.
Yes, we're going to get to that.
We need to wrap up this query of versus.
I think I've
never read ElfQuest. I've never read ElfQuest either. I'm super aware of it. It was always there. I think it just wasn't my cuppa because I don't know if I read comics about elves. That's honestly why. And I'm sure it was a fun fantasy comic, and you would think that Ninja Turtles would Tyrant. And yeah, Jim Rugg is putting it together as like the editor and whatnot. So it's going to be a great collection. But I am trying to think about their legacies, you know, because they're super impactful, the both of them. And I don't know if Charlie weighed in yet.
Yeah, well, so I was going to take a less universal look at it and take it a more personal look. Like for me, if you pin this down, for me, both as a creator and as just a fan, and honestly, as a little kid, I'd almost have to lean towards the Peonies, and here's why. Not because Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles wasn't huge, and it's a huge to our. I mean, we beat this horse to death, but I mean, it's a huge marketing success. It's a global phenomenon.
Right.
But I found ElfQuest because like I had just like had a big hard time with my family. I was 12 years old. I ran away, and when I was found, my grandmother kicked me out and said, "You can't live here anymore." And the whole reason I ran away, she was an alcoholic, and and I was just kind of done with that stuff. And she cleaned up, and everything's good. Well, she's dead now, but anyway, the point is that like I was forced to go live with my dad, who at the time I hated. I grew up hating my father. My parents were divorced as I was 4. Now I got to live with him and his girlfriend. And his girlfriend didn't like kids, and so like, what the hell? Like, thank you for throwing me in like my own personal hell. Yeah. But it turns out that she was an avid comics reader, and the 2 books that I fell in love with and she and I bonded over, and we became lifelong friends, by the way, even after she and my dad split, were Batman and the Outsiders, Jim Aparo,
nice,
right? And Matt O'Barr, and then ElfQuest. And she had the collected editions, and I read all of the ElfQuest series up to that point, that had been published. And Judy and I became lifelong friends, to the point like she moved to Texas, got remarried. We stayed friends. When the Texas Rangers won the World Series, she sent me a whole bunch of swag, and just that kind of relationship. So to me, very personal. But the other side of it, from a creator perspective, is I read ElfQuest, and it really resonated with me as a storyteller. It's almost Japanese style storytelling, where they're focusing on characters, and every book, every story, there's a greater thing going on. And they were driving towards something kind of Lords of the Ring-ish, we got to get out of here, go to here. This is burning down. We got to leave this place. But that was just a vehicle. Like, the real story was the characters. And that was very different from a lot of comics that I grew up reading, because comics we all grew up reading were superhero books. And they were all about the action, the whatever's happening in this issue, or maybe these few issues. It was always plot driven versus character driven. And this to me was very character driven, which is why I fell in love with Japanese storytelling, in the last, half decade or so. So much more is it really felt more like that kind of thing coming back, where things happen to these characters, but what you're really invested in is what their response to these things are. So these are just stimuli being thrown at them, but the real story is how they respond.
I feel like ElfQuest is the Generation X version of Bone, like in terms of impact and in terms of storytelling, and what the story, it's a fantasy book, so like they both kind of live in the same realm, and I feel like that's the I'm sure that's a huge compliment to the Peonies, that I would compare it to something as huge as Bone. And I feel like like Marcus was saying a second ago, that ElfQuest and Teenage Mutant Turtles were the first books I was able to check out of a public school library, and that's what makes me think of Bone, for being like the millennial version of ElfQuest kind of. I think my choice would be ElfQuest. I've never actually read more than a few issues, but I get what Charlie's saying in terms of like the character work and everything. I think the impact that Eastman and Laird had on the comics like industry is immeasurable almost.
Yeah.
But I feel like if I were to be stuck on an island with a choice of books, I'd rather have something that I was going to, absorb, over that timeline, whereas I don't know that they did very many Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle books themselves. I think, it kind of got shopped around to other people, and, like Sophie Campbell's was doing great work when she was.
Oh, the IDW run is phenomenal.
Yeah, but it's not Eastman and Laird, so I think that's where my my sensibilities would go to the actual creators.
And speaking of like its legacy and how it's impacted, and you know, I mean, I think Monty Keene is an
Yeah.
acolyte of, you know,
Eastman Laird. Yeah, definitely.
Eastman and Laird. But you know what? I'm convinced about what you guys are saying about character, and you know, I again, it just wouldn't have appealed to me when I was younger, that kind of a comic book. But I could always tell that there was a certain quality to it, and I
Yeah.
like what you're saying about it in terms of character, you know. And so I feel like that's probably I think we three agree that in the Versus universe, you know, they're a little ahead. Wendy and Richard Pini with ElfQuest.
Yeah, and if you want a great example of a more mature book, if you want to see, I think this is it's Vagabond, from which isn't where I got my book's name from, but damn, I got to turn off the blend, the blur thing. If I could do that super quick before we get off. There we go.
Get off.
They're doing a collected series of this in hardcovers now, but from Viz Media. This is a manga, and it's, yeah, you got to read it, you know, right to left as opposed to left to right. But a great example of a fictional retelling of Miyamoto's history, personal history, the legendary samurai Masashi Miyamoto. In a story that just goes from place to place to place, but the places don't really, like, they're just, again, they're settings. They just happen to be situations and things that happen to the character, but you really care about all of the characters in the series. It's phenomenal, and it will change how you see and write stories and think about stories.
I want to go back to this question here. My choice for Charlie's Versus would be,
oh God,
I want to say Jeff Johns. Only because of your imagination. Like, you put a lot into your books, into your stories and your storytelling. And I mean, I see them behind the scenes and I see them on the, you know, like the finished product. And I think that it's not so much the work that you're doing, because that's a part of it, but it's the imagination that you're putting into it. The conversations I've had with Charlie just on Milestone alone, where we're like, I want to try this. And he's like, that would be great. And you know why that would be great? Because, like, as a publisher, he could just say, just do it, you know, just do whatever you want. But he'll actually pick it apart and go, this is why this is great, because it informs this, that'll tell this, and, like, you know, like, it'll dovetail into the story. Like, and I think that's how Jeff, you know, and Dean and I both know Jeff. And
Jeff bought my book.
I was just saying, you met Jeff. I was there when you met him, you know, so I mean, I think you can, you know, we can all see that in you. You know what I mean? Like that kind of.
What you're describing in a way, Vito, is like a showrunner, kind of like Stan Lee,
absolutely.
Jeff Johns, Charlie. To me, I see him as a showrunner, a guy who's spinning many plates and trying to, you know, and helping uplift other creators, and while putting out his own ideas and having a certain a commercial sense, but also a vertigo sensibility, for lack of a better term. So I think that's a good analogy, or you know, comparison. You know, and of course Jeff Johns just destroys Charlie, like blows him out of the fucking water. Like,
no doubt, I would have
never even existed.
Anyway, before we get out of here, I'm going to put the links up one more time. Claymore still has about 24 hours left to go. You can find it at kickstarter.com/projects/Xion Studios, and it'll just pop up, you know, populate there. Blind Squirrel and Xion Studios, shop.xionstudios, Xion with an X, xionstudios.com. And just a reminder to everybody that late pledges are open for Dean's Antimatter Kickstarter that was successful. So while he's working on it, if you've missed it, you can still pledge for it.
Just click right here.
On pages right now, which I can't show because of the nudity on that one. Okay.
As while I'm standing up pointing at my junk, but
yeah, that's your third tentacle.
Third tentacle.
Charlie strikes me as a hands-on CEO. He's involved in every aspect of creation. That is very accurate.
Absolutely. Well, so thanks, guys. Thanks. I think we're going to get kicked off anyway. So
no, we got 1 minute. So thank you, everyone, for joining us. Thank you, Charlie, for joining us for your first, but hopefully not last appearance. And we'll talk to you guys next week. Good night.
Good night.